Welcome.
Hello, Michelle. How are you?
Great, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I just want to show you my son real quick. Come here, babe. Say hello to Miss. Hi. Miss
Hi.
Michelle.
How are you?
How are you? Good.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
All right. You're gonna go do stuff with Dad. I just wanted to let you see.
Love. Love.
So sweet.
Welcome, everyone. I had to set this up because it's public. I had to set it up where I have to let everyone in. So this will just be really interesting. We'll just see how I do. Welcome, everyone who's joining. This is a reminder, I am recording today. I am not recording your name. I took that option off. Good morning. Nice to see you. We'll just give everybody, my early birds are here, so that's wonderful. We'll just give everybody just a couple of minutes and I'll start right on time at noon. Do you all see my closed captioning? You can see the closed captioning? You cannot? Huh. Thank you. Let me work on that. Okay, I'm gonna try that again. Can you see my closed captioning? That's interesting. Okay. It should be orange. Maybe it's too small. Should be orange.
So Michelle, I found a workaround. If the participants can click on more, there's like all the way over all the way to the right, almost to the end where they would leave the meeting. There's 3 dots in a circle. They can click on that and then it says show captions and then you choose English and then now I see it. So I guess each participant can do it. That's a workaround.
Thank you so much. That's very helpful. So it sounds like on your end, you need to activate the captioning. And again, that's on in mine, it's the 3 dots. You can activate the closed captioning.
For an old man like Joe, she's like, well, I'm not Joe. Come on, you know, like, I'm ready to box.
It'll be on the recording as well, I think. Okay. Let me just check my waiting room. It is noon. So again, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I was saying earlier, good morning, afternoon now, everyone. I was saying earlier that I have to let everyone in because I posted this as a public meeting and Zoom emailed me immediately and said, wait a minute, you've got security. So I'm just letting people in. Just give me one moment. And I cannot find my waiting room. Ah! Okay, this is exciting. Let me let some people in. Anyone willing to help me with my waiting room and where it is? It has disappeared.
So Michelle, if you want to make me a co-host, I will be glad to let people in as you get this going. I promise I won't do anything that you wouldn't want me to do except let people in and out.
Be
Would that be
fantastic.
helpful?
And I go to host tools for that, I guess.
Let's see. We're all with you. Like a lot of us are not professionals when it comes to Zoom, I think. I'm not a professional. So if you go to participants and you see my name, Heather O'Connor, you can click on make a co-host, I believe. If anybody else knows how to do that.
I've actually got it. Here we go. All right. Okay. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Wonderful to see so many familiar and unfamiliar faces and names. I'm Michelle Davis, for those of you who do not know me. And co-host for me, please. Just let everybody in if you can.
Okay, I will do my best.
So much. Really appreciate that. I'll first of all ask everyone to mute for me so that there's no echo and that'll remove the echo. Just a little reminder that we're recording today. I'm going to be posting this and I'm going to post it on my YouTube channel, which is called Advocate with Michelle. So Advocate with Michelle is all about empowering, advocacy, and educating parents and educators so that we can have all of our children with disabilities close that achievement gap, meet and exceed district standards, and really soar to lead productive and happy and fulfilling lives. So that's why I called my company ABCs for Life Success. It's academic behavior consultants, and it's all about success in life through education. So today we're going to talk all about accommodations. And why did I start out with the topic of kind of getting ready for back to school and all about accommodations? There are some nice resources in Maryland. And if you're not from Maryland, that's okay. You'll be able to follow along. So we're going to be looking at the accommodation manual. We're going to be looking at a template of an IEP. And if you have your child's own individualized education program or IEP with you, please feel free to just bring it and I'll direct you to the pages that we're going to be looking at today. And we're just going to talk all about accommodations. If you have any questions, I will just do my very best to go to the chat periodically, and you can ask any questions there. Certainly feel free to get our attention and feel free to also ask a verbal question. We're casual around here, so just whatever your preference is. So if you're not asking a question, if you could just go mute, that would be fantastic. So we've got some 5 words today that I want you to remember. And these 5 words are not only going to prime us for the theme today, all about accommodations, but they're also going to words that you should be using in your child's individualized education program or IEP. First word that I want to highlight today, just choose a darker green for that, is specially designed. You know what's coming next, instruction. Specially designed instruction is otherwise known as special education. And the purpose of specially designed instruction is so that a child can meet or exceed district standards. So we got, when we're considering accommodations, we have to know what standards the child needs to meet or exceed in order to figure out how to accommodate. So these are, again, 2 words that we want to talk about in our IEP meetings. We want to think about as we move through today, all about accommodations. The next word is meaningful, or it's actually 2 words. The next words are meaningful and significant. And these words, meaningful and significant, should describe the progress that your child is making. Meaningful and significant progress is part of the analysis of whether a student's receiving a free, appropriate public education. Another word that we want to use frequently, we want to make sure that the IEP team is really focused on closing that achievement gap that does exist between students with disabilities and their non-disabled peers. And then last, but certainly not least, we want to focus on and make sure that we use this word frequently, not only in today's session, but in the IEP meetings. And this is really related to the data that the team is using for educational decision-making for your child with a disability. Okay. I'll check chat now. Any questions or comments about those 5 important words: specially designed instruction, meaningful and significant progress, achievement gap, district standards, and data? Okay, without seeing any, let's get right to it. We're going to be talking today about the Maryland Accommodation Manual. And you will have found the Maryland Accommodation Manual in the emails that I sent to the MC Needs community. And you might get a little dizzy here in this part. I'll try not to scroll too much, but this is what it looks like. Maryland Assessment, Accessibility, and Accommodations Manual. It was revised just recently. And part of what you'll see in the Maryland Accommodation Manual is the first thing that we talk about is district standards. So in your school district, whatever county you live in your school district, there are tests that are given. Some school districts use a MAP, other school districts don't. Most school districts might use a DIBELS for reading, but you'll want to know, and then the Maryland Comprehensive Assessment Program, the MCAP, is provided in all districts starting in grade 3. So the first thing that the Maryland Accommodation Manual will tell you is what are some possible or probable district standards. Now, do keep in mind that your child also receives benchmark testing. Your child receives classroom testing. And I'm going to post these links on the MC Needs website and on my social media as well. But you can see here that you can find the state standards and the district framework for the state curriculum per grade level. So for example, this is social studies. So let's go to 4th grade social studies, because you have to know what the district standards are. What is the child learning? How is the child supposed to be learning it in the general instruction methodology, so that then you can know how to accommodate? So we don't have time today to go through all of the curriculum standards, but again, I will be posting for science, social studies, even elective areas, math, and English language arts. In the accommodation manual, you'll see a lot of information about how the school team makes decisions. But the first thing that we need to know about how the team makes decisions is we need to know that they are made based on classroom data. And so many parents think that, hey, you know, I'll ask for a certain accommodation, but there's no data. For example, extended time is a very common accommodation. And sometimes the parent will hear, well, we as a school district don't have the data that is needed for us to go ahead and put that on your child's IEP. And sometimes that's frustrating. So it's important that we take a look at the data from the classroom when we're expecting to go into the accommodations. As we move through the Maryland Accommodation Manual, state and federal laws and requirements, background and history, how to support students in assessments, and we're going to be talking about first, we're going to be talking about accessibility features for all students. Okay. Now, you might wonder on your child's IEP, okay, and now I'm going to turn over to this tab, which is the template of all of the possible accommodations on your child's IEP. So in the Maryland IEP, you've got accessibility features for all students. Parents often ask me, well, what's possible to put on here? I only see 2 things on my child's IEP. How many things are possible? So I want you to see 2 things here. I want you to see that in the individualized education programs in Maryland, these are on your template, you're going to see what's possible. But in the Maryland Accommodation Manual, for example, here with the answer masking as an accommodation, this manual tells you kind of how that accommodation gets put into place or who might qualify for that accommodation. So as an example, answer masking, accessibility feature for all students before the test, and this is where a student can block or cover an answer choice. So before testing and during testing, these are some considerations or some practical things that need to be considered. And then what's the allowable use in Maryland? It's for both instruction in the classroom and for assessment. So this answers a lot of parent questions, which is, where do these things come from? So these first sections, the number 1 with a letter afterward, are are features that are available for instruction and testing for all students. So there's bookmarking, color coding, blank scratch paper, eliminating answer choices, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now I'm back on the tab where we're in our Maryland Online IEP, and we can see here, these are features for all students. Again, the number's 1 with a letter afterward. So pro tip, I always have this in front of me in an IEP meeting, because when we get to the part of the individualized education program where we're discussing what accommodations, we want to make sure that we don't miss anything and we know what the team should be selecting. Okay, more accessibility features for all students. Okay, now you'll see in the online IEP or in your child's IEP, you're going to see a number 2. You're going to see a number 2. The numbers are going to start changing from 1 to 2. And so in the manual, you'll go until you page and page until you see the numbers starting with 2. There are a lot of accessibility features available for all students. Okay, so now we're talking about administration considerations. Does the child need a small group? Does the child need accommodation and testing at a best time of day for that student? Does the student need a separate or alternative location? Does the student need specified area or a specified setting or adaptive or specialized equipment and furniture? Frequent breaks, reducing distractions to self. That's where you have the removal from the classroom for testing and removal from the classroom for instruction when there needs to be reduced distractions, or just even a certain part of the classroom that has the lower distraction. So again, these are accessibility features that are administration of testing and administration of instruction in the classroom. Now, I want you to notice something in really important in each of these sections. You don't just have to choose from these. You can actually, the team, the IEP team can absolutely justify a unique accommodation. And one more thing, while I hear people being let in, and before I go to the chat for questions, if you see here, the document basis for decision, that's a very important 2 little lines there, which can have more than just 2 lines. But what it does is it allows the IEP team to document anything that the reader needs to know about how the accommodations that have been selected are going to be provided. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing for just a second now, and I'm just going to go to chat and see if anybody has any questions or anything that they'd like to say or share based on just the first 2 sections. We have 2 more to go, which were accessibility features for all students and administration considerations.
I have a question. Thank you. I came on a little bit late. I just got off of a call, but what I'm looking at my IP and I'm just trying to figure out. I'm just under special considerations and accommodations right now. I'm looking for what you just showed on your computer, like what page?
On your child's IEP?
Yep.
Okay, so if you have your child's IEP in front of you, you're going to look at the top right-hand corner, because all the pages, all the students' IEPs are going to have different pages and page numbers. So you look at the top right-hand corner of your child's IEP and you're going to see what section you're in. The first section is called student information.
Yeah.
And so you're going to page until you see Roman numeral number 2, which is going to probably be
Present level.
present levels of academic achievement and functional performance.
Hmm,
So now we're going to get to Roman numeral number 3.
got it. Okay.
And there's going to be this grid. Let me show it to you here. There's going to be this grid here. And I'll show you where it says special consideration. See the Roman numeral number 3 at the
Yep.
corner of the page.
Yep.
And then this grid here is all of the accommodations are in the first column. And then all of the different testing that is common to all the counties in Maryland are going to be your other columns, and instruction, of course.
Okay, okay. So it's kind of underneath the instructional assessment accessibility features.
Yes, that's the first, the numbers 1 are going to be your first section of features for all students. And then numbers 2 and the numbers 1 are going to have little letters next to them. And then when you get to the numbers 2, it will be administration considerations.
Got it. Thank you.
So Michelle, I've been answering the chat as best as I could as you were speaking, and a question came in. Is the data in the classroom enough to dictate an accommodation on an IEP?
That's a great question. So the data in the classroom is enough to dictate an accommodation on an IEP. Absolutely. Once a student has an IEP, they would have had evaluations, they would have had psychological, educational, and other testing. So in a public setting, in a public school setting, the student would have already had a testing done and then become eligible for this individualized education program. So because the testing had already been done, the formally administered testing has already been done, the classroom data can be enough, but it is paired with all the other information. Does that make sense to your question? I happen to have a little inside scoop
Thank
of
you.
that question. You're welcome. Absolutely. Any other questions before I screen share again? Any comments? Was there anything that you'd like to share without sharing your child's name? Anything that you would like to share about your child's IEP or a question about your child's IEP?
So Michelle, I have a question, kind of piggybacking on that question. So the question is, how much data is enough, right? And you always want more data, right? And less subjective data. However, that brings me to the point of perhaps you can talk about the importance of progress monitoring, and when the student has that goes along with the report card, the parents should be receiving documentation that speaks to how the child is performing on the IEP. And oftentimes, I think, and this is what you taught me years ago, is that oftentimes we just expect when we see a little check or we see information saying progressing, that we don't need any data with that. So maybe you can speak to like what I'm actually talking about, because I'm a little unclear of what I'm trying to convey.
Well, I think what I'm hearing you're conveying is the importance of ongoing data-driven progress monitoring, so that, as you know, a lot of parents will just kind of do your annual review and then be invited to another annual review the following year. I like to help families be very engaged in ongoing progress monitoring, because, you know, let's say most school districts will have MAP reading and math testing start right at the beginning of the year, September, October, and then a mid-year, and then an end-of-year data point. Benchmark testing, meaning the curriculum testing, you know, your grades are going to come every quarter, but you know, you've got ongoing grades, you've got ongoing classroom assessments happening. And so all of that is really important for the data-driven progress monitoring. We'll do a whole session on this. I think progress monitoring deserves its whole hour. But I will briefly say before we get back to the manual that, like, let's say your child is progressing, you get the IEP progress report every quarter, and it usually will say, your child's making sufficient progress on your IEP goals. But guess what? They're below basic and below level on all the district testing. So are they really making sufficient and meaningful progress, which is why, or significant and meaningful progress, which is why I started out with those 5 important words. Specially designed instruction is in order to meet and exceed the district standards, have the student have significant and meaningful progress, and data-driven decision-making. So that primed us for this conversation, and you're bringing up, I think, a really important point. When your student's not making progress on the district testing, it's important, and I think, to call for an IEP meeting and have this accommodation discussion with the team. Next time you give the testing, what kind of accommodations should my child have so that they can meet and exceed the district standards? Okay, I have a hand raised. Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away.
Hi, Takeda again. One of the things that I did, and I'm trying to read it in the IEP, whether or not it was reflected, was we realized that when she gets assessed one-on-one with no distractions, you have a more accurate picture of her ability. And we saw some significant shifts during first quarter in first grade. And we went to the teacher and we were like, so she was like, oh, she's so below, so concerned. And I kind of turned around and I said, well, where are you actually assessing her? And she was like, oh, well, we're in the classroom in the corner. I said, well, that's the problem. You think, oh, but she's focused. I said, she has ADHD, impulsive, and attentiveness. She is going to get distracted by anybody who moves or brushes past her to go pick up a pencil at another table. You have to remove her. I mean, so what I did was I basically had a separate call before the next IEP meeting. And I said, I need you to start doing these, even though they're not written. I need you to start assessing her. And once they started assessing her one-on-one, they saw shifts and changes. And now, instead of pulling her out, they push in and only pull her out for specific grammatical phonics. But still, I'm looking in the IP now that I'm reading through. I'm like, I know she gets extended. She has extended accommodations for tests, but I'm trying to figure out where to find out the area where I asked, and it was just my oversight. But where should that be explicitly stated?
So your question is, where on the IEP would individual testing sessions be? Am I right? And
Yeah.
outside the classroom. Okay.
Yeah.
So the individual testing sessions, so there's a couple of different places, right? So you'll see under number 2, because we've only gone over numbers 1 and numbers 2 so far. So under number 2, you'll see small group.
Yep.
Now, small group can be in the classroom still, so small group doesn't guarantee removal from the classroom. You see the reduced distractions to self, 2G, and the 2H, reduced distractions to others.
Mm-hmm.
Usually means removal to a separate location. Then you have another opportunity with changing the location within the school. It's usually not outside of the school.
Yep.
But that highlights the unique accessibility feature, because individualized testing is not a bullet item. It's not a bubble it's not a, because this is all being bubbled and check marked and drop down menus on the online system.
Right.
So the place to find the unique accessibility feature of individual test administration is under 2K.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Okay, I think I saw another question. Okay, you're suggesting that we have personal questions until the end. I think we'll get through the next 2 sections. We'll see. I'll try to manage time.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a question that came in, just one other question, Michelle, and the
Uh-huh.
question is from Marlene. It says, for a child who uses an AAC device, is there any requirement that the teacher be proficient with its use?
the answer is of course, but I'd like for you to email me and we can have a conversation about your concern. How about that? And you should have my email, but I'll put it all over the place at the end, but you can go ahead and email me. We'll have a conversation about teacher training and teacher qualifications, especially with augmentative communication devices. Okay. Let's roll on. So in the next section of the manual is going to be numbers 3. So let's take a look at what numbers 3 mean. This is in your student's IEP again, top right-hand corner, Roman numeral number 3, special considerations and accommodations. And now we're under, you see here where it says presentation accommodations. So numbers 3 in the manual are literally how instruction is being presented to your child with a disability and how the testing is being presented to your child with a disability. So here we have, and we'll go to the manual in just a second. Oh, I made a mark on my page without meaning to. Um, I'll be practicing my Zoom features. Okay. Um, now I have to stop share and share again because I don't know how to get rid of that little marker that I just opened up. So the presentation features are going to be your assistive technology, not including a screen reader, and then the screen reader, Braille, hard copy, Braille, tactile graphics, large print, paper-based edition. These are for your students who have trouble with the screens. They can't stay on the right place. They get into trouble because they're looking at things they're not supposed to, or they're just distracted. So that can be your paper-based edition of the testing or instruction, closed captioning, text to speech, American Sign Language video, a human signer, a human reader, notes and outlines, partner assisted scanning, and then again, unique presentation accommodations. And again, these are presentation accommodations. How is the testing? How is everything being presented to your student with a disability? So now I'm in the manual, I'm in the accommodation manual. Scrolling the wrong way in the accommodation manual. But like I said, especially for those of you who've joined recently, your would be helpful if I was in the right document. Your accommodation manual is going to tell you exactly who qualifies, not exactly, sometimes it's a little unclear, but who qualifies and what it is. For example, a screen reader version 3B. Screen readers are primarily used by students who are blind or have low vision. A screen reader provides audio output for all information shown on a monitor. The software will provide audio output for desktop icons, keystrokes, menus, and texts. So you see how the manual complements the IEP, and you can see exactly, the considerations before, during, and after testing. We're going to go to a really common commonly discussed, which is, I already talked about your paper-based version. Going to talk about human reader. Okay. The purpose of the human reader accommodation is to provide access to printed or written text for a very small number of students with print-related disabilities and who are deaf or hearing impaired who would otherwise be unable to participate. Because their disability severely limits their ability to access print. And many of you parents of students with dyslexia or want to have this conversation about having a human reader for your child to make the print accessible. This can be, teams can push back on this because they are being trained that only a very small number of students can have the human reader. And then we go back to that data. Remember, one of the most important words to say in an IEP meeting and that drives this presentation is the data related to human reader. We also have to consider in the classroom, for example, does this require a student to be removed from the classroom, which relates to a least restrictive environment kind of question. Because if I'm reading aloud to your child and all the other students don't need read aloud, are the other students going to be accessibly benefiting from or harmed by my reading aloud to your child in the classroom? So sometimes, this is an example of how an accommodation can have a bigger bigger impact on the placement and services that your IEP team is going to offer. Okay. So let's see, any others on number 3? Notes and outlines, very common, and then unique accommodations. Again, anything that's not on the list that the IEP team will agree to should be documented. And it's very important to use this little line right here in your child's IEP that, see right here where it says document basis for decision. It's important that we pay attention to the documentation of the basis of decision for these accommodations. Okay, and almost lastly, but not leastly, we've got 2 more sections. We've got numbers 4, which is quite large in terms of the list of response accommodations. This is how your child's responding to instruction or responding on a test. And I'll just preview for you. The last one is going to be numbers 5, which are going to be timing accommodations. So the extended time, the unique timing would be like unlimited time. But right now we're just on 4. So here's the list, and I've got to make it a little smaller so you can see it all. That's the list of your numbers 4. Again, response accommodations. How is your student going to respond? Are they going to respond using technology? Are they going to respond with a human scribe? Do I have to write for your child when he or she speaks? Does the child need sign language? Does your child need an adult to monitor their test response? We don't do Scantrons very often, but I did come up with an IEP meeting the other day that they're like, yep, we still do bubbling on the Scantron. So I said, okay, well, we need to have answers recorded in test booklet then. So again, so important to know what testing your child is doing, the format of that testing. In my MC Needs post, I gave you all practice tests that, I don't know if you open them, you're going to see how challenging the MCAP is. I gave you practice tests at every grade level. So go on, get in there and see what your child has to do, how they typically have to respond, because then you'll know what accommodations that the IEP team should land on for numbers 4. And again, just going to the manual, I see your hand, give me 1 minute. You're gonna go to the manual, and for any question that you have, I keep going to that. For any question that you have about how my child, and again, have this document in front of you at an IEP meeting so that when you're asking for one of these things, you're again, a pro tip for you. Come to the meeting with this manual right in front of you so that you can read from it for the team. And they're going to be super impressed. Okay, and so the timing accommodations, it's usually going to be your extended time. Let's see. I'm just gonna, 4 is really long. A lot of options for response accommodations. Okay, but so you've got the extended time, and it's for instruction and assessment. It's usually going to be default at 50% extended time. You can go to 100% extended time. You can go to 200% extended time. It's just that, and I want to say a few words about extended time. It's just so common. If we advocate for 100% or more extended time, even unlimited extended time, there are practical considerations. Elementary school children, high school students, different kinds of considerations. But when you think about the extended time for instruction, you think, okay, well, that means assignments. You can have extended time on assignments. So it's very important to take this part right here underneath, right there, document basis for decision. Because extended time can be challenging if you're constantly extending the time that the student has while the other assignments pile up. You start to get into an issue where you've got a snowballing effect, and we start to get overwhelmed pretty easily. And again, the unique timing and scheduling accommodations are the ones that are just not listed in the manual, but they can be individually determined. Okay, what kinds of questions, comments do we have about response accommodations or timing accommodations?
I just had a question about the monitor test response and the unique accessibility for that particular section under 4.
Mhm.
If you have 4R, does 4R connect to one of the above subsets?
Is the monitor test response?
Yeah, but isn't directly connected to one of the, how you're doing it, right? When I was looking at all the different options, word prediction, human signer response, under the 4s, is that 4R connected monitoring, or is it an adult doing it? Like, I'm just trying to figure out what, like, if you have that, is it connected to one of the others and you would have both?
Not really. I mean,
Okay.
it might be practically connected, but it's not like if you select this one, you also have to select the other one.
Okay.
Let me just get to the description there.
For some reason, I don't even see.
Okay. All
yeah.
right. This
Mhm.
accommodation is to ensure that the student is marking the answer for the problem that the student intends to answer. For example, a student may accidentally put 2 answers for one problem on the same line, or accidentally skip a problem.
Got it.
So again, you got to go back. You got to find out what testing is your child going to be doing and how is that testing being done.
What test and how?
Paper, pencil, is it screen? Like, for example, everybody probably knows that iReady is going to be screen. Your map is going to be on screen. Your MCAP is going to be on screen. I gave you the sample
Mhm.
tests. So this is a very good example about the importance of documenting in the IEP how exactly this can be used. Some kids just need a little eyeball every once in a while over their shoulder.
That's perfect, thanks.
Other students might need me to sit there the entire time. So that then can connect to a supplementary aid. We're going to do supplementary aids and services in another session as well, but that could connect to a supplementary aid and an additional adult support. So I hope that's answering your question, but it's a great example of how everything really is connected, but it's not as if you mark one of these bubbles, you have to mark the other one.
Correct.
Just checking my notes here and making sure that I'm getting to everything I am. So, these sessions, I'm really committed. I've been a consultant since 1998. Before that, I was in Montgomery County Public Schools as a special educator. Before that, I worked in residential and therapeutic sessions. I've been working, I just turned 56 this weekend, and I've been working in the special education field literally since I was 11 years old. At 11 years old, I was a one-on-one aide, if you can believe it. Now, that was back in the day. Okay, that was back in the, I think, 70s, where I was a one-on-one aide for a little child on a playground, and I was paid a $20 savings bond for 200 hours of work one summer. And that was only equivalent to $7.50 back then for 200 hours of work. So I have been enjoying working with families with students with disabilities for a super long time. And I like to do these sessions. I don't do them as often as I would like to, but I'm going to start doing them more often. I'm going to post these on my YouTube channel. I do need 1,000 subscribers to my YouTube channel, which again is Advocate with Michelle. Because I'm going to start a call-in show. Once I get the 1,000 subscribers and I can do a live show, I'm going to start a call-in show where people can call me and ask advice, and everyone will benefit from it. So I'm committed to empowering, educating, and advocating so that parents and schools can work in partnership, and parents and schools can provide students with extraordinary education, high quality special education services. Another commitment that I have, along with my commitment to extraordinary service to families and educators, is the commitment to bring parents to a table as more equal partners, because they are entitled to be equal partners with the school team. And parents, a lot of times just have to hire someone like me to help them know what's available, what's out there, what do I do? Or am I using all or am I obtaining all the resources that my child needs in order to make, again, I'll just repeat, meaningful and significant progress, to meet or exceed district standards, using data for educational decision-making, closing that achievement gap between students with disabilities and their non-disabled peers, and so that specially designed instruction is meaningful and adapts appropriately, not only the testing environment, but the general education classroom instruction as well. And I just really thank you all for being here. I might put out a poll on MC Needs about how I did. I don't know if I want to go that public, but I certainly thrive on your feedback, and your feedback, makes me keep getting better at the informational sessions and just generally what I do for parents. So we do have 8 minutes left, so I'll open it up to questions and discussion. But please do consider going on over to my YouTube, Advocate with Michelle. And even though there's only 2 posts up there right now, well, soon to be 3, subscribing would really help me a lot.
So Michelle did not put me up to this, but I just want you to know, Michelle is phenomenal. She met me, well, I met her. I found Michelle years ago, about maybe a decade ago, when my son, who is differently abled, it's a new word I learned yesterday at church, believe it or not, helped me. My husband and I had been MCPS teachers for our whole lives. Like Michelle, we've dedicated our whole lives to teaching. And so my husband was an MCPS for 30 some odd years. Well, at the time my son was 4, we only had like 20 and 15 years into MCPS, but now fast forward 10 years later, we were a little bit more experienced. But anyway, I say this all to say that we were in the trenches. We were teachers. I was a special educator. I had my certification. And what Michelle taught me was better than any professional development training I've ever had. And when she was going through my son's IEP with us, I learned so much about what I did not know. And she helped us become advocates of our child, knowledgeable advocates, because no matter what, it's very emotional. Even 10 years later, when I sit at the IEP table, it's nice to have someone like Michelle in the wings with us, or even there, because it does get emotional. But I just say that Michelle really gets it. And what makes her very unique, because there's lots of educational consultants out there, and promise Michelle didn't put me up to saying this, what really Michelle gets is she has a niche for kids that are emotionally challenged, used to be disturbed, but ED, where she really understands, and I can speak to this as a teacher, that child that used to really get under your skin and like, what are you going to do with him? Like, she can help you. If your child is the most challenged child, if he has the most, or she has the most, or they have the most challenging IEP, I can honestly say that Michelle is your girl, because she not only helped me redesign and reorganize my child's IEP, but I can really understand what's going on. Now, having said that, I didn't know all this that she presented today. I mean, so every time you speak to Michelle and every time she presents something, she is a true teacher. She's not just telling you what the IEP is, she's teaching it. She's giving you examples of how this all works. And if you don't understand, you can say to Michelle, she's not intimidating at all. You know her personality now. You know, you can say, I still don't get it, Michelle, and she won't make you feel like you're ignorant. So I just say, you know, Michelle, this was fantastic. We are so lucky to have had you present this document, this like menu of all the IEP accommodations. Believe it or not, Michelle, I didn't even know it existed. And
Wow.
like, I had sat at the IEP table just recently saying, I wish I had like a menu of all the things I could order up on this IEP. And the people at the table that maybe knew that it existed never said anything like, oh, you could get that. So I just think this is phenomenal, and I will stop, but I just am like such a cheerleader of yours. And I just really, I will make sure you get those 100 subscribers. I'm on it, Michelle. Thank you so much.
I cannot tell you how much your acknowledgement means. Thank you so very much. It is a pleasure. I am fortunate. This was a long time ago now, and your cutie patoonie's really growing up. Thank you for showing him to me today. But I'll tell you what, it's a real pleasure, and my heart is full with your acknowledgement. I really, truly, sincerely appreciate that so much. Fill that advocacy tool bag up. Okay, so any other last burning question? Oh, Heather, did you want to tell about, I mean, I'm happy to have you tell about your resources in the area if you would like.
Sure, thank you. So this is really phenomenal. This is such a great experience, and this kind of came to be. Like Michelle and I connected. We have the same kind of circles. And so what I'm doing right now is, and many of you might not know this, but we have in this country an organization called the Academic Language Therapy Association, and they will sponsor trainings where teachers can truly become professionally certified in the science of reading. And they come in two flavors: certified academic therapists, which are therapists that work one-on-one with the most severely dyslexic or reading challenged students. And let me tell you, we don't just work with the most severely dyslexic students or reading challenged or below grade level students. We work with students that are struggling. And guess what? What's the difference? We do the same program, but we just go with that particular student a little bit quicker. So we are trained in evidence-based reading programs. We took, I'd say, 4 or 5 graduate level classes, and we had to do 700 clinical hours with a student with 20 observations with our supervisor. And it normally takes over the course of 2 to 3 years, okay? And then we have to sit for a national exam to become a certified academic language therapist, okay? I was a teacher. I paid out of my own pocket. Most of us do, okay? And I became a certified academic language therapist. Some of us on the call are certified academic language therapists. There is another type of therapist or practitioner that the National Academic Language Therapy Association provides a certification for a CALP, a certified academic language practitioner. And those are practitioners that work with students in small groups. And those are the ones that can go into schools and work with groups. They have an equally harder and extensive training, but it's just 2 different therapists. So what I say to you, and we've got some of our therapists and practitioners on the line right now, and I'm the president of the Maryland chapter of we call it ALTA. If you want to know about ALTA, you could go to www.altaread.org, or you could just email me. And the point that I'm trying to make is I don't need clients right now, but what I'm trying to say is we need to get the word out, okay? If you hear someone who's getting trained or tutored by a reading specialist, you can go to this website where we become certified, and you can look up by state our certification and our certification number. It is so important. There are so many people out there that are saying they're trained in the science of reading and they could address reading issues and struggling readers. And I get it because they went to a course, they took a course online and they have a certificate, but it's not going to help. It might even hinder some kids who are not having tutors that aren't really certified. So more to that, the national therapists from the organization, we're in about 25 countries. So I'm one of 25 chapter presidents, and many of us do this work online. So just really be careful when it comes to reading who you're hiring. And if you need more information, feel free to reach out to me. Once again, this isn't because I need clients or whatever. This is just getting the word out, because the science of reading is a hot topic. And Maryland, the last time I checked, is like 44th when it comes to reading, like 44th being last. Like the states like Mississippi, Alabama, Arkansas, they are beating us so far in reading. And so while Maryland was just it was on the news the other day, like while Maryland has one of the top 3 educational programs in the country based on whatever this news channel was. I think it was NBC News was doing. We have to be really careful that we can't trust that the instruction that our children are getting in school is top notch for our struggling students. So just be aware. And I'm very proud of my colleagues that are trying to bring about change with reading. And if you need more information, contact Michelle, and then she'll contact me and I'll give you more information. Thank you for that time, Michelle. I didn't really thank you. I didn't put you up to that.
You're welcome. It's very important work. So we're a little bit over. Next time I'm going to tackle the supplementary aids and services section on your child's individualized education program. Thank you again for joining me here for my session all about accommodations. I hope you enjoyed it, and I certainly enjoyed being with you this afternoon, and hope you have a great rest of the day.